Hey guys, so I've got a new tutorial for you here. We're going to look at adding some video to the Unreal Engine within the hood. So I think there's quite a lot of information over the internet and like tutorials on YouTube and other documentation to talk about how you actually put videos within Unreal. But I've never seen anyone actually try and do it where they've actually added it into the hood or the user interface. So I've had a go at this and I've worked out how to do it, so I thought I'd share this with you just in case it's useful. Obviously you can set this up so that you can have things trigger this off as well, so it doesn't always have to be there. You could have it where you walk through a trigger box and it fires something off, so it's part of the game experience. But that stuff I'll leave to you, um, as again there's quite a few bits of information online that will help you look at how you trigger things like that. So I'm going to start off in Photoshop. I don't know if you guys have seen, but they've released like a fan art kit for Anthem, and it's got some cool stuff in there. I figured just because I'd seen this recently, this would be something quite good to add in there for another reason than Anthem just looks awesome. So I've already downloaded the kit, so what I'm gonna do is I've opened it up and I've unzipped it, and I'm just gonna add I'm gonna work with a logo today, so I'm just gonna drag that across into my scene. If it lets me do it, there we go. So a fairly big size, which is cool with what we're going to be working with. So I just want to turn this essentially into like a short video. It's worth noting that GIFs don't work very well in Unreal, and by saying they don't work, they really don't work at all. What you end up having to do is trying things like converting them into sprite sheets and then using like flipbooks, which is something you can do in Unreal. I had a little go at doing this, and maybe it was just me, but I didn't seem to get very far with it, and I found that this was actually a much better way of doing it. So I'm going to go to Window and open up my timeline and create a video timeline for this. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger as well. Oh, did not mean to do that. Let's put that back at the bottom again. Hello, there we go. Try and lift that up. Cool. Okay, so first things first, I'm just going to change this up a little bit. So by default, it comes in at 5 seconds. And if we just go to settings, so where am I going? Set timeline frame rate. I'm just going to set the frame so it's like 24 frames per second. Click OK. And then so I've still got obviously 5 seconds worth, but it's only going to be playing it at 5 frames, which is fine. That's what I want. Is it too long? No. I'm going to keep it at 5 seconds. It's all good. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create a new layer on top of that. And then what I'll do, in fact, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, I'm going to actually delete that, because what I'd like to do, just to make my life a little bit easier, is what are you doing? Is actually add like a gradient to this. So I'll get this essentially kind of like this sheen going across the whole thing. So I'll just do that in quite a simplistic way. You could do it with like lines or something if you wanted to, but I'll just do it with a gradient from here, and then I'll just change that to diamond, change the colors, so it will be like a slightly off yellow color, so something like here perhaps. Yeah, that seems fine. Why is that showing up like black? I have no idea. Okay, is that working now? Why are you showing up as black? I know you're right there, but total white. Okay, there we go. Interesting. Okay, so there it is. So in order for this to kind of work, we want to make it so that it flies through it at different points. So I'm just going to scale it up so it's quite big. That's quite good. I'm going to change that so it's a little bit lighter actually. There we go, that looks a bit better. Yeah, that's fine. Yep, I'm okay with that. And then if we open this up, you can see that you can change the position of this, which is fine. But just kind of like, it's more out of a habit, if anything, that I do this. I mean, it will actually work anyway. But if you were to kind of like want to twist it and stuff like this, then what you do is you convert the layer into a smart object, just so it'll work a little better. I mean, I'll show you that it works both ways. So if I just go to show transform controls for this, select this layer, you can see that when I try and move it across this way, that way, it's not going to work, just because it's a gradient fill layer. So it's actually not going to work without converting it to a smart object. I've kind of made that, I feel like I've made that sound really complicated, but basically, if this was a normal layer, and I put like a gradient on it, I should be able to move it back and forth, because I have the position information there. But what I was saying is that often with images, with layers, you might want to twist it round and rotate things around, and you can only do that, and you can only get Photoshop to track or keyframe that if you turn this into a smart object, so the position turns into transform instead. However, with this being a gradient fill anyway that we did down from here, we're going to have to do that anyway, because otherwise it won't let us move it. Okay, so now I turn this into a smart object. You can see this transform controls appeared, which is great. So I'm going to drop this down again, and now you can see it's turned into transform, which is cool. It's lost all the options that we had before, so we haven't got like layer mask position or layer mask enabled, which can be quite useful depending on what you're doing, but obviously for what we're doing today, we don't need that. So I'm just going to go ahead again, and I'm just going to convert to a smart object. And for the starting position, I want it to be, I'm just going to scroll out here, I want it to be basically so that we can't see this, so I'm just going to put that there. Perfect. And I'm just going to keyframe that to start off with, and then if I move this all the way, the playhead, all the way to 5 seconds, and then I'm going to move it all the way over here, all the way to the edge, so there's no influence, and it should automatically keyframe it, and it has done. So now if I move this playhead back, we can see that's going on there. One final thing is to clip this. So if I hold down Alt and hover in between the two layers and do this, what should happen now is that the influence only happens on the letters, so I'm not seeing anything else. It's just got this kind of thing going behind it, which is hopefully quite a cool effect. Alright, so now that I've got that in place, I'm just going to go to here, click on this, and go to render video. Just let it load up for a second. It's just going to initialize the video export, which is coming from my other screen, so you guys can't see that. And then Anthem logo, MP4. MP4 is absolutely fine for what we're doing. High quality, awesome. That's all looks good. It's going to put it into this section here. So let's just move it to something where it's going to be a little bit more like just on a desktop. I think probably the best place. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are just going to click render. So everything else seems fine there. 24 frames, full frames. Yes, yes, yes. Cool. Click render. So this is going to render it out for a video for us, and it shouldn't take too long. In fact, it does look like that's done it already for us. It has indeed. Let's just see how that looks. There we go. Oh, very, very. It goes across there. Perfect, cool. Okay, so I have just remembered that I've forgotten to do something on this, which is obviously quite important. Well, I mean, it's not massively important, it depends what you want to do with this. But I would actually like it to appear where, if I just open up that video again, obviously, well, actually, no, you can't really tell on here, but it has got a black background to this just because it's been put into a video. And that's what's going to happen. So in order to get rid of this, because I quite like the word Anthem just to appear without a background, we need to add an alpha mask to this so that this can be picked up in Unreal. So in order to do that, all I need to do is I just need to select my first layer, and then I'll just hold down Control and click the preview, so it only has the areas that are appearing, so nothing in the background. And I'll go to the channels, create a new layer, and it will Photoshop will be clever and go, I see you're adding a new layer, so it looks like you want to add an alpha channel, and so it hides everything else and just shows that. And I'll go to the paintbrush tool, make sure it's set to white, which it is, and then I will just color that in like that. Okay, so the way that alpha masks work, they're working the same way that layer masks do. Everything that's white is visible, and everything that is black is invisible. And of course this is going to work perfectly for us because we've clipped the layer, so we don't see the gradient as it moves across in the foreground. We only see it when it impacts on the letters, if that makes any kind of sense. Cool. Okay, so now I've done that, I'm just going to have to do that again. So yeah, apologies for forgetting to do that step, but hopefully you're all cool with going back and doing that. So yeah, everything should be the same. I'm just going to go over it and overwrite it. Little message saying you should replace it. Yes, you do. Yeah, I mean, part of me is thinking, should I go back and just edit this video so that it's in the right order, but hopefully you guys won't be too annoyed with me that I've missed that step out and gone back. Okay, so let's just double check that works. Yep, still working. Obviously doesn't look any different at this stage, which is good. Don't want it to, because the magic happens in Unreal. Okay, so we should be okay to minimize it all down now. And if I just open up a new project, I'm going to open up a third-person project in Unreal. So make sure it's got things like the starter content in there and all that jazz. Awesome. Okay, so I'm not going to mess around with creating a new level or anything like that. It's fine with what we've got just here. So first things first is what we need to do is we need to create the aspects of this that are required for the HUD. So if you go to Window and you go to World Settings, you'll see that at the moment Game Mode Override has none attached to it. So we'll put third person game mode in here, and then we'll drag this down, select game modes. So you know the pawn class, which is responsible for the type of character, the HUD class has all got different things in there. So at the moment it's just the only available one is HUD, and we want to create our own, and we're going to slot it in here in just a second. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll right click in the content browser and we'll go to blueprint class, and it's not one of the ones that comes up on the base. So if we go down all classes and just type in HUD, it'll be the top one just there. Click select, and we'll call this our HUD. There we go, nice and imaginative. Save all. Double click it, just make sure it's all good. Alright, yes. Okay, cool. So that's fine for the time being. We'll just go over to HUD class and just change it to our HUD. Brilliant. That means now that when we press play, it will always look for this blueprint, which we need to add a little bit of information into in a second, but we'll come back to that. So we'll right click again, go to user interface and down to where it says widget blueprint, and we'll call this main HUD. I really need to come up with some better naming conventions for this. Save all again just to make sure it's all nice and saved. Double click this, and here is your stage. There you go. So this is supposed to be essentially a preview of the screen. Screen size is currently set to 720, which is fine for what we're doing. Obviously there are options if you were going to be doing this for a different size monitor, I suppose, or if you were doing it for a phone, which is quite cool. But obviously we're just going to leave it as is. And we've got our buttons over here that we need. Okay, so we're going to put a video in here. And the way the video works best is if we do it through, it uses an image, which kind of makes sense, I guess. So I'm just going to place it there for the time being. And we need to obviously put the image in here, but we need to actually pull our video in first as well. So if we go back here, and I'm just going to create a new folder, call it video, and in here I'm going to import the anthem video, and it comes in like this, which is cool. So I need to right click, go to media, and bring a media player. It's like, do you want to bring in a video output media texture with this as well? It would make sense. So you're like, yeah, tick that, click OK. Give it a name, call it Anthem logo, I guess. And that's it. Already exists in location named Anthem logo. Of course it does. It's right next to it. Anthem. I'll just call it Anthem. I'll just call it Alvin. I'll be honest. I didn't realise that would conflict because they're two different things. But that's strange. Okay, I did not know that. So then you double click on this, and you just double click here to make sure it works. Whoosh. I keep feeling like we need to add a sound effect to this as well to have the whole kind of like thing whooshing across, but it's all good. And we'll click loop as well here, just so it continuously loops. So that's all looking fine. The video's coming okay. It's there. So what we need to do is we need to actually, in order to make sure this shows up properly within the HUD, we need to turn this into a material. So if I right click and create material, just going to hit enter to confirm because I'm happy with that name. I'm going to hit it again. As you can see, at the moment, it's set up. So this is just a normal material. So we're going to have to change the material type to user interface, which massively changes how this looks, as you can see. And then we're going to change it from opaque to additive, which allows us to plug this into the opacity of this. So we'll apply that and save that. And hopefully that's going to be happy with us. Nothing seems to be happening on the preview, but I will just pretend I haven't seen that and hope that everything works in this next part. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Perhaps it's because I haven't set the source up yet. Okay, so click save, and we'll get rid of that for the time being. And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this into here. So we're going to open up the brush. So we've selected the image, and if it helps, you might want to rename this so image video. That's not confusing. I don't know if this is an Unreal thing or a HUD thing or just my computer thing, but if I just click on this, it just seems to like not allow me to really go into this, so I have to click and hold for some reason. And then I'm looking for the media texture. No, I'm not, sorry, apologies, I'm not looking for the media texture at all. I'm looking for the actual material. So if I scroll down now, I'm not clicking and holding anymore, by the way. I suppose actually do I just search for it? That'd be better, wouldn't it? ANT. There it is. And for my video material, okay, like that. And then I'm just going to stretch it out, and it's still not showing up on the whole thing, which is a little bit disconcerting because I'm not really sure why it's not. But we'll go with it. And I'm just going to anchor that as well, so it's in the middle. Compile, save. I should be getting some kind of preview, but maybe it's I think I did everything right in Photoshop. Okay, I'm going to stop worrying about it. I'm going to stop learning about it. I'm just going to see what happens. So the next steps are we need to make sure that it's set up properly within the actual graph side of this. So in order to do that, what we do is we go into the graph. And this is probably the most complicated part of it. And I'm not saying that to throw you off, I'm saying that to make you realize how sort of straightforward this actually is. So if you click variable, and we'll just call it something like media player, yeah? And then down here, you can change the variable type, and we just search for media player. This one here, cool. So this gives us access to this type of function and variable within Unreal, and then I should just be able to pull that out like that, get that, and pull that open to there, and type in open source, lovely, and then drag that across. Within here, I need to specify that it's the Anthem one, and then within here, I also need to specify it's the Anthem one. So save. And what this does is essentially it allows, if I don't do this, then I think the Anthem logo, when I've done it before, would just appear as a static image. This allows it to play as a video within the HUD in this bit here. So that should be working there. Is it still working? Are you still there? Yeah, you're fine. Save. You're still looping. Okay. Right. So go back here. So that's our widget that we've just been playing around with. In fact, let me just make it super straightforward, just because I'm starting to confuse myself now with the naming conventions. That's the main HUD widget, okay? And then this is the actual HUD that goes over here, okay? And then, so now what we need to do is we just need to go over to double click on here, open up in full blueprint view, sorry. And then when on the event begin play, which basically means that when we press play, we want to create widget, and we'll look for the one that we just made, which is the main HUD widget. And once you've got that in play, once that's happening, we want to then add to the viewport. So this adds the widget to our viewport. Compile, save, and keep your fingers crossed. Hooray! It's worked. Okay. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit worried when it wasn't showing up in the widget bit, but it's working, so that's happy times. So yeah, that will just continue to play and run. And then obviously there are other possibilities that can be done with this, which you should see up on the screen now. And as we talked about before, you could theoretically fire these off. So you reach a specific point and something comes up on the screen, which is quite nice. As an alternative, I suppose, to actually having a cutscene play. So instructional, as a HUD should be, or a user interface should be, in helping the player navigate or understand what's going on kind of in like the narrative or the meta narrative of the game, but not necessarily having to be sort of massively computationally expensive, and just because we can make a quick video and add it to it and make it come up at a certain point. Cool. Okay, well, thanks very much for watching. I hope you got something out of this video, and it helps with your own projects. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.